It's strange, isn't it, how a single sheet of paper, crisp and smelling faintly of expensive ink, can hold the weight of so many lives. In a lavishly appointed office, far from the sun and the salt, that document would one day lie on a mahogany desk, its elegant script sealing the fate of a dozen souls who believed they were only sailing out for another week of uneventful work. But they would never know that their entire world, their ship, their freedom, their very breath, was just a pawn in a game played by a charming admiral and a desperate shipping magnate. So hello there. Tonight, we're going to follow the invisible thread that connects that quiet office to a terrifying chase through the treacherous shoals of the Bahamas. We're delving into the heart of the golden age of piracy, a time of swashbuckling adventure that was, in reality, mostly just swashbuckling disease and misery. You're being dropped into Nassau, 1718. The air is thick enough to chew, a humid cocktail of rum, sweat, and brine. You probably won't survive this, but hey, that's the spice of life, isn't it? A little bit of existential dread to keep things interesting. So before you get too comfortable in your impending doom, perhaps take a quiet moment to press the like button and maybe subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what we do here. Your quiet support means the world. I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight and what time it is for you. It's always nice to picture where these stories land. Now, go ahead and dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft, sleepy background hum, and let's ease into our journey together. Your name is Orla Power, though most everyone who knows you, which isn't many, calls you Orly. You are the surgeon's mate aboard the Sea Lark, a small merchant cog that smells perpetually of damp wool and bilge water. And as you stand on the creaking deck, you know nothing of the storm brewing just over the horizon. Not a storm of wind and rain, but one of cutlasses, greed, and the kind of betrayal that leaves scars deeper than any blade. The sun is a merciless white coin in the sky, and the heat presses down on Nassau's bustling harbor. You, however, are focused. Perfection is not just a preference for you, it's a shield. Down in the cramped, swaying space that serves as your infirmary, you are completing your third and final check of the medical chests. Each vial of laudanum is stoppered, each roll of linen bandage is tight and clean, each needle is polished to a gleam. Your superior, the ship's surgeon, a portly man named Alistair, believes in, quote, good enough. You believe that good enough is how a simple cut becomes a festering wound, and a festering wound becomes a burial at sea. Your politeness is a carefully constructed fortress, your bravery a quiet internal hum, but your perfectionism that is the engine that drives you. You tap a bottle of willow bark tincture, ensuring it's secure in its little wooden slot, everything in its place, everything ready for a voyage that is supposed to be utterly routine. Your captain, a man whose most defining feature is his profound lack of defining features, gives the order to cast off. Ropes are coiled with practiced ease, the anchor is weighed with a chorus of grunts, and the Sea Lark slowly, grudgingly, pulls away from the dock. You watch the chaos of Nassau recede, the ramshackle taverns, the fort looming on the hill, the gallows standing as a stark reminder of the consequences of a bad decision. You feel a familiar faint pang of relief as the shore shrinks. The sea, for all its dangers, is at least clean. It is orderly in its own chaotic way. For 2 days, the voyage is exactly what was promised. Boring. The turquoise water of the Bahamian banks slides placidly beneath the hull. The sky is a vast, cloudless blue. The crew mends sails, swaps tired stories, and complains about the cook's weevil-laced biscuits. You spend your time assisting Alistair with minor complaints. A splinter here, a case of sunburn there. You read from a worn book of anatomy, the precise diagrams a comfort to you. This is your life, a predictable, polite rhythm of quiet competence. You are useful, you are respected for your skill, and you are, for the most part, left alone. It's all you've ever really wanted. The third morning dawns differently. A haze hangs low over the water, thick and milky, swallowing the horizon. It muffles sound, creating an unnerving stillness. The lookout's voice, when it comes, is strained, uncertain. Sail off the port! Bow! Everyone looks. At first, it's just a smudge in the mist, a darker patch of gray. It's moving too fast, though. Far too fast for a merchantman. It's cutting through the water with a predator's grace. As it draws nearer, peeling itself from the fog, the shape becomes terrifyingly clear. It's a sloop, low-slung and sleek, rigged for speed. and from its mast a flag unfurls in the still air. It's not the reassuring colors of the Royal Navy or the familiar standard of Spain. It's black. Jet black, with a crude white-painted serpent coiling around a single, staring eye. A cold dread, sharp and clean as one of your scalpels, lances through you. The sea serpent. You've heard the name whispered in taverns, a ghost story told to frighten new sailors. Its captain, a man they call One-Eyed Jack, is said to be more monster than man. Panic erupts on the deck of the Sea Lark. It is a messy, clumsy affair. Your captain shouts contradictory orders. The crew, simple merchants and deckhands, fumble for the few muskets stored below deck. They are not fighters. They are lambs, who have just realized the wolf is in the fold. You, however, move with purpose. Your duty is clear. You and Alistair hurry below, not to hide, but to prepare. You lay out your tools, your bandages, your tourniquets, on a small, clean cloth. Your hands are steady, your movements precise. Chaos can rage outside, but in here there will be order. The first cannonball strikes like the fist of God. The entire ship shudders, and the air fills with the shriek of splintering wood. You hear screams from the deck, sharp and terrified. Another crash, this one closer. A section of the ceiling above you explodes inward, showering you both in splinters and dust. Alistair cries out, clutching his arm where a piece of shrapnel has torn a bloody gash. Hold still, you say, your voice remarkably calm, even to your own ears. You grab a strip of linen, your movements economical, efficient. As you tie off the bleeding, the sounds from above change. The cannon fire stops. Now there is shouting, the clash of steel, and a chorus of guttural, triumphant roars. They're aboard. The fight, if it can be called that, is short and brutal. You can hear it all through the thin deck planks. The desperate, clumsy defense of your crewmates against the practiced, vicious assault of the pirates. A few musket shots, then the wet, percussive sounds of blades finding flesh. A body thuds heavily onto the deck right above your head. Then another. The screaming subsides, replaced by moans and the harsh laughter of the victors. The hatch to your small infirmary is kicked open, and sunlight streams in, framing the silhouette of a massive man. He has a wild black beard and a patch over his right eye. The other eye, a piercing, intelligent blue, sweeps the tiny cabin. One-Eyed Jack. He isn't a monster. He is something far more terrifying. A man who is completely in control. His gaze lands on the bleeding, whimpering form of Alistair, then on you, standing straight and still beside him. He sees the neat rows of tools, the clean bandages, the blood on your hands from treating your surgeon. Well, well, his voice is a low rumble, surprisingly cultured. What have we here? Two of his men, faces smeared with grime and sweat, shove past him. They grab Alistair, who cries out in fear. Leave him, you say. The words leave your mouth before you can think to stop them. They are quiet, but they cut through the tension in the small room. Brave, and perhaps incredibly foolish. One-Eyed Jack's blue eye narrows, focusing on you entirely. He takes a step closer. He smells of salt, sweat, and gunpowder. And who are you, to be giving orders on my prize? Quote, I am the surgeon's mate, you reply, meeting his gaze. You gesture with your chin toward Alistair, who is now pale with shock. He is the surgeon. You'll need one of us. Probably the one who isn't currently bleeding all over the deck. Quote, a slow smile spreads across Jack's face, cracking the grime on his cheeks. It's not a pleasant smile. It's a smile of discovery, like a prospector finding an unexpected nugget of gold. He looks at your steady hands, at the organized medical supplies, and then back at your face. He sees no panic there. Only a tightly coiled perfectionism and a flicker of defiance. You're right, he says softly. He jerks his head at his men. Leave the fat one. Bring this one. Before you can protest, rough hands grab your arms. You are hauled out of your orderly sanctuary and into the bright, bloody chaos of the deck. Your crewmates are either dead or bound, their faces a mask of terror and defeat. The pirates, a motley collection of savages in stained breeches and bandanas, are already plundering the cargo hold. You are dragged across the deck, your shoes slipping in the blood of men you shared breakfast with this morning. They push you toward the railing, toward the rope ladder that connects the dying sea lark to the vibrant, menacing sea serpent. You take one last look at your ship, at the life that was so predictable and safe just an hour ago. and as a pirate shoves you roughly toward the ladder, you find yourself a captive, a prize of war. Your meticulous world shattered. You are now a piece on a board you never even knew existed, and your next move is completely out of your hands. The rope ladder sways sickeningly as you make the crossing. The sea serpent is alive under your feet in a way the sluggish sea lark never was. It feels twitchy, eager, its deck stained with things you refuse to name. The pirates, your captors, pay you little mind now that the initial prize is won. They are a swirling, shouting mass of energy, dragging chests from your former home, their laughter sharp and cruel. A man shoves you from behind, and you stumble forward, catching yourself on the mainmast. The wood is rough, splintered, and warm from the sun. You are not led to a cabin. You are taken below, past the gun deck where cannons sit like sleeping beasts, and deeper into the guts of the ship. The air grows thick and stale, heavy with the smell of unwashed bodies, tar, and something acridly sweet, like fermenting fruit. The man who shoves you grunts, unlocking a heavy barred door. He pushes you inside without a word and slams it shut. The bolt groans home with a sound of absolute finality. You are in the brig. It is little more than a cage made of thick wooden bars set into a small, cramped section of the hold. There is no light save for what filters through the grimy slats of the ceiling high above. A thin, filthy straw pallet is your only furnishing. It is a place of profound disorder, and it sets every nerve in your body on edge. You stand for a long moment, simply breathing, forcing the rigid set of your shoulders to relax. Panic is a luxury. Precision is survival. You take stock. The cell is small but sturdy. The air is foul but breathable. You are alive. That is the first, most important fact. From your cage, you become an unwilling audience to the life of the sea serpent. The hours blur into a cacophony of sound and motion. You watch as they haul the plundered goods from the sea lark into the hold. Bales of English wool, crates of wine, barrels of salt beef. The mundane cargo of your previous life is now the treasure of these marauders. They divide it with a chaotic shouting system that seems bound to erupt into bloodshed at any moment. A knife is drawn over a disputed bottle of rum, but a sharp word from another pirate diffuses the situation with a grudging laugh. They are vicious, but there is a line they do not cross with each other. You see their ruthlessness firsthand. One of your crewmates from the Sea Lark, a young boy named Thomas who had been bound and thrown below with the cargo, begins to sob too loudly. One of One-Eyed Jack's men, a brute with a face like a collapsed pudding, walks over, kicks him once to silence him, and then goes back to counting his share of silver buttons as if nothing happened. The casual cruelty makes your stomach clench. These are not men who value life beyond its utility to them. They are a pack of wolves, and you have seen what the pack does to the weak. Yet as the days bleed into one another, you begin to see other things in the flickering lantern light. You see the same brute who kicked Thomas later sit for an hour, patiently feeding a scrap of salted fish to a scrawny, one-eared ship's cat. You see two pirates, their arms draped over each other's shoulders, singing a sea shanty that is surprisingly melancholic and beautiful, their voices harmonizing in the cramped space. You see them share their water rations without question, bind each other's minor wounds with a surprising gentleness, and mock each other with an intimacy that speaks of long shared hardship. They are a contradiction, killers and brothers, savages and comrades. There is an order here, you realize. Not your kind of pristine, logical order, but a messy, violent, and strangely resilient one. An ecosystem of survival. You spend your time trying to impose your own order on your small world. You smooth your straw pallet each morning. You pace the 3 steps from one side of your cell to the other, 100 times, then 100 times again, until it becomes a meditative rhythm. You try to identify the ship's creaks and groans, cataloging them, learning the vessel's language. You are a surgeon's mate. Your purpose is to understand systems, to find the flaw, the sickness, the break, and to know how to mend it. This ship, this crew, they are a body, and you are beginning to learn its anatomy. On the 4th day, a new figure appears. The noise of the hold has died down to a low murmur, the men either asleep or on deck. You are sitting on your pallet, your back straight against the damp wood of the hull, when you hear the soft tread of boots approaching. It is not the heavy, careless stomp of the other pirates. A man stops before your cell. He is not as large or as fearsome as the others. He has a lean, intelligent face, and his clothes, while worn, are cleaner than most. He holds a tin cup of water and a hard, dry biscuit in one hand. It is James Flint, the man you saw standing near One-Eyed Jack during the capture. The one whose role you couldn't quite place, the translator. He says nothing at first, simply studying you with calm, assessing eyes. There's no malice in his gaze, nor is there pity. It's something quieter, more curious. "I brought you this," he says, his voice as even as his gaze. He slides the cup and biscuit through a small gap in the bars. His movements are neat, economical. They remind you, faintly, of your own. You do not move immediately. Politeness is a habit, but trust is a currency you do not have. Why? You ask. Your voice is a little rough from disuse. "You look like you could use it," he replies simply, and One-Eyed Jack wants his new surgeon's mate kept alive. You reach out and take the offerings, your fingers brushing his for a fraction of a second. You nod your thanks, your gaze never leaving his face. He has a surgeon, the fat one. Quote, "Alistair?" Flint allows a small, dry smile. Alistair is a butcher who complains more than he works. Jack saw your infirmary. He saw your hands. He knows the difference between a sawbones and a healer. He pauses, leaning slightly against the bars, his posture relaxed. He was impressed. "So was I. You were brave." "I was practical," you correct him quietly. "A wounded surgeon is of no use to anyone." Quote, "On this ship, practicality and bravery are often the same thing." He looks around the grimy hold, at the sleeping, snoring pirates. You've been watching, learning. It's not a question. You take a small sip of the water. It's flat and tastes of metal, but it's the most wonderful thing you've had in days. There is little else to do. Most people, when we take them, they scream, or they cry, or they collapse, Flint says, his voice dropping lower, becoming more confidential. They see only the chaos, the violence. They don't see the rules. Your eyes flick up to meet his. Rules? Every man on this ship has signed the articles, he explains. It's an agreement. A code. It dictates the shares of plunder, the punishments for cowardice or theft from a shipmate. It's what keeps this family from tearing itself apart. It's why that man who drew a knife over the rum bottle is still alive. It wasn't his place. There are procedures. The word procedures hangs in the air between you. It is a word you understand, a word you respect. Suddenly, the chaos you've been observing clicks into a new kind of focus. It isn't random. It's a system, governed by a logic you couldn't previously see. But this code, it has weaknesses, you venture, testing him. Flint's gaze sharpens. He seems pleased by your observation. Everything does. Every system. Every man. He glances over his shoulder, ensuring you are still alone. This crew is held together by two things, greed and fear of what's worse. Most of them are escaped bondsmen, deserters, debtors. They chose this life because it was better than the gallows or the plantations, but they aren't all loyal to Jack. He leans closer still, his voice barely a whisper now. Jack is smart, but he's paranoid. He trusts no one completely. He keeps the quartermaster close, but they watch each other like hawks. There are factions. Men loyal to the idea of piracy, not necessarily to the man leading them. They follow him because he finds them prizes like the sea lark. But if he were to fail, if a better option presented itself, he lets the sentence hang, the implication clear. Vulnerability. He looks at you, and for a moment you feel like he is seeing past the surgeon's mate, past the captive, to the core of you. You're a perfectionist, aren't you? You see the flaws in things. You see how to fix them. He pushes himself off the bars, preparing to leave. Keep watching, Orla Power. Learn the system, learn the flaws. It may be the only thing that keeps you alive. Quote, he uses your full name, not the familiar Orla you're used to. It strikes you as incredibly strange, almost intimate, in this place of profound alienation. How does he know it? Who is this man, this calm translator who moves through a world of brutes? Speaking of codes and vulnerabilities, he turns and walks away, his footsteps receding into the quiet gloom of the hold, leaving you alone with a stale biscuit, a cup of water, and a mind racing with new, dangerous information. You are still a prisoner in a cage. But for the first time since you were dragged aboard this ship, you feel the faint, familiar flicker of purpose. The chaos outside your cell is no longer just noise. It's a puzzle. And you, Orla Power, have always been very, very good at solving puzzles. James Flint's words become the new architecture of your confinement. The grimy hold is no longer just a prison. It is a complex social machine, and you have been given a glimpse of its gears. You watch with a new, sharper focus. You see the subtle shift in allegiance when the quartermaster, a squat, powerful man named Sneed, distributes the rum ration. You note which men drink with him and which men look to Jack's spot on the quarterdeck before taking their share. You listen to the arguments, not for their angry words but for the fault lines they reveal. You are no longer just a captive. You are a student of a dangerous and intricate system. Flint returns twice more over the next week. His visits are brief, always under the guise of bringing you your meager rations. He speaks in low tones, his calm a stark contrast to the volatile energy of the hold. He asks you questions, testing your observations. Who has the morning watch tomorrow? Did you hear what they said about our heading? He is assessing you, you realize, just as you are assessing him. You answer his questions with the precision he seems to value, your polite tone belying the rapid calculations turning over in your mind. On his fourth visit, the air has changed. There is a new tension humming through the ship, a taut wire of anxiety that even the most raucous pirates cannot entirely hide. The sea is rougher, the sky a bruised purple-gray. Flint doesn't bother with pleasantries. He slides a cup of water through the bars, but his eyes are fixed on yours. "There's a Navy frigate tailing us," he whispers, the words barely audible over the groaning of the ship's timbers. "Been there since dawn. Staying just over the horizon, but she's there. A ghost." Jack is spooked. He thinks it's a trap. The chase. The words from your strange introduction to this world echo in your mind. This is it. "He's running," you ask. "He's running for cover," Flint corrects, "into the shoals east of Andros Island, a place the charts call the Devil's Teeth. He thinks he can lose the frigate in there. A heavy warship won't risk its hull where the coral can tear it to shreds." He leans closer, the scent of rain and salt on his coat. But the storm that's been brewing is going to break tonight. Navigating the shoals in a gale, it's madness. The crew knows it. They're scared, and scared men make mistakes. This is it, the vulnerability he spoke of, the flaw in the system. You have a plan, you state, your heart beginning a slow, heavy drum against your ribs. A flicker of a smile touches his lips. "I have the beginnings of one, but I need a healer, not a sawbones." His gaze is intense. "I need a perfectionist. The escape has to be flawless. We get one chance." Quote. He lays it out for you in short, clipped sentences. The storm will provide the primary distraction. The entire crew, Jack included, will be on deck, fighting to keep the sea serpent from being dashed to pieces on the coral. But the guards to the hold, while fewer, will remain. They are your problem to solve. There are 2 men on watch below deck at all times, Flint explains. One is a new recruit, barely a man. The other is a veteran named Gouty Mike. They call him that for a reason. His joints flare up in damp weather. He'll be in pain. He'll be irritable. And he trusts a surgeon more than he trusts his own captain. Quote, the pieces click into place in your mind. You see the path, the procedure. He'll need treatment, you say, your voice quiet but firm. A distraction, not an incapacitation. We don't want a body. Exactly, Flint murmurs, clearly pleased. We need to get them both out of the way. Make them busy. Create a problem only they can solve, somewhere else on the ship. Quote, a poultice, you say, the idea forming, perfect and complete. A complex one. For a severe attack of gout, inflammation of the joints so severe it could lead to sepsis if not treated immediately. Your mind is already listing ingredients, not real ones, but ones that sound plausible and would be difficult to find. He'll need powdered mustard seed, ground ginger for the heat, and fine linen, not rough sailcloth. Most importantly, he'll need fresh water, boiled to purify it, and a clean bowl. They won't have any of that here. They'll have to go to the galley. The galley is on the other side of the gun deck, Flint confirms, his eyes gleaming with appreciation. It will take them 10 minutes in this weather, maybe more. And you ask? I'll take care of the lock on your cell while you're making your diagnosis, he says. Once they're gone, we move. We free the boy, Thomas. We can't leave him, and we make for the port side dinghy. It's small, but it's our only chance. Everyone else will be focused on the starboard side, watching the shoals. Quote, he looks at you, his calm exterior for once failing to conceal the immense risk. Can you do it, Orla? Can you play the part? Convincingly? You think of your infirmary on the Sea Lark, of the precise order of your tools, of the quiet confidence that came from knowing exactly what to do. This is no different. It is a procedure. A dangerous one, but a procedure nonetheless. You meet his gaze and give a single sharp nod. I can. The storm hits just after dusk, a raging beast of wind and water. The sea serpent is tossed about like a child's toy, the deck tilting at sickening angles. Rain lashes down in horizontal sheets, and the shriek of the wind through the rigging is a constant, deafening scream. Down in the hold, the air is thick with fear. The ship groans around you, a litany of tortured wood and straining rope. This is the chaos you were waiting for. Through the bars, you see Gouty Mike limp to his stool, his face a mask of pain. He curses, rubbing his swollen knee. The younger guard looks on, his face pale and slick with nervous sweat. The moment is here. You wait for a lull in the ship's violent pitching, then call out, your voice clear and steady. Guard, you there, Mike, your gait is labored. Is it the gout again? Mike looks over, surprised. What's it to you, prisoner? He grunts, but there's a flicker of interest in his eyes. It's my trade, you say politely, rising to your feet and moving to the bars. You adopt the calm, authoritative tone you used with nervous patients. In this depth, an attack can be severe. If the joint swells too much, the blood could be cut off. It could turn septic. I've seen men lose limbs to less. The word septic does its work. The young guard's eyes go wide. Mike pales slightly under his grime. What are you saying? Quote, I'm saying you should let me look at it. From here, if you must, you say. A proper diagnosis might save you a leg. Quote. Hesitantly, Mike limps over. He thrusts his leg toward the bars. Even in the dim lantern light, the knee is grotesquely swollen and red. You study it for a moment, your expression serious. It's bad. Very bad. The inflammation is acute. We need to reduce it immediately with a thermal poultice. You begin rattling off your list. The mustard seed, the ginger, the clean linen. Then you deliver the final, crucial instruction. And you'll need a half-gallon of fresh water, boiled. Not bilge water, it must be clean, or the wound will fester. Take it to the galley stove. The heat is essential. You look directly at the young guard. You'll need to help him. The bowl will be hot, and he cannot risk a fall with that leg. Quote, the young guard looks at Mike, who is now thoroughly convinced he is at death's door. Go on, you useless whelp! Mike snarls at him. Did you not hear the surgeon? My leg's about to fall off! Quote, as they turn to leave, their minds full of boiling water and sepsis, Flint materializes out of the shadows. In his hand is a length of iron. He moves to your cell door. While their footsteps recede, he jams the iron into the lock mechanism and levers it with a single powerful grunt. The wood splinters, and the bolt gives way. The door swings open. Freedom is the foul, damp air of the hold. You waste no time. You follow Flint to the pile of cargo where Thomas is kept bound. Flint's knife flashes, and the boy is free, confused and terrified. Stick with us. Don't make a sound, Flint orders him. The journey to the deck is a nightmare ascent through a bucking, screaming vessel. You cling to walls and barrels as the ship lurches, the sounds of the storm and the frantic shouts of the crew growing louder. When Flint shoves open the final hatch, the gale hits you like a physical blow, stealing your breath and plastering your clothes to your skin. The deck is a scene of organized pandemonium. Silhouetted against the lightning flashes, pirates swarm the rigging and man the wheel, their bodies straining against the wind. One-eyed Jack stands by the helm, his voice a roar that cuts through the storm, shouting orders as he stares into the churning darkness ahead where the shoals lie. No one sees you. No one is looking. Flint leads the way, bent low against the wind, toward the port side. The dinghy is lashed to the deck, covered by a simple canvas. Working together in a frantic, silent ballet, you and he untie the knots while Thomas holds the canvas to keep it from being torn away by the wind. The ship crests a monstrous wave, and for a moment, the deck is nearly vertical. You all cling on, your knuckles white, your feet slipping on the slick, rain-swept planks. With a final heave, you push the dinghy to the railing. Flint ties off a rope and quickly lowers it into the violent, churning water below. It bucks and swings wildly. Go! He yells over the wind. You first, Orla! You don't hesitate. You climb over the railing, your hands and feet finding purchase on the rope ladder Flint had rigged. The descent is terrifying. The dinghy smashes against the hull, then is sucked away by a wave. You time your drop, letting go as it swings back beneath you, landing hard on the wet planks. You scramble to make way for Thomas, who follows, his face a white smear of terror. Flint is last. As soon as he lands, he pulls his knife and saws through the rope connecting you to the sea serpent. You are free. The massive, dark hull of the pirate ship rises above you like a cliff face, its lanterns already seeming distant. Then a wave, larger than the others, catches your tiny boat and flings you away, spinning you into the black, roaring maelstrom of the sea, the wind and the rain. You are a speck of nothing in the heart of the storm, with the devil's teeth somewhere ahead in the darkness, and the only man who knows the way sitting just an arm's length from you, his calm face unreadable in the flashes of lightning. The world is reduced to three things: the rhythmic slap of waves against the dinghy, the agonizing burn of your muscles as you bail water with a broken bucket, and the steady, low voice of James Flint. He sits at the tiller, a phantom in the pre-dawn gloom, his face unreadable but his hands certain. The storm broke you, chewed you up, and spat you out into the labyrinth of the devil's teeth. You survived not by skill, but by a combination of sheer luck, and Flint's unnerving, almost preternatural understanding of the currents that churned between the coral razors hidden just beneath the surface. You passed so close to one outcrop that you heard the grating shriek of it against the bottom of the boat, a sound that vibrated through the wood and into your bones. You make landfall on a sliver of white sand on the coast of Andros Island as the sun rises, painting the bruised sky in shades of pale rose and orange. The three of you, Flint, and a shivering silent Thomas, collapse onto the beach, the solid ground beneath you a profound luxury. You are alive. But you are also exposed, shipwrecked, with nothing but the soaked clothes on your back and a shared, unspoken terror of the ship that may be hunting for you. The sea serpent may have been battered by the storm, but One-Eyed Jack is not a man to let a prize or a slight go unanswered. "We can't stay here," Flint says, his voice raw. He's already scanning the horizon, his calm analytical as ever. Jack will repair and search. He knows these islands better than the Navy does. He'll start with the cays nearest the shoals. Quote, "And so begins a desperate, scrambling journey. You trade your survival in the storm for the slow, grinding hardship of the shore. A sympathetic fisherman, his face a leathery map of sun and sea, agrees to take you the last few miles to Nassau in exchange for the promise of future payment, a promise he accepts with a cynical shrug that tells you he doesn't expect to ever see it. As his small boat rounds the spit of land that hides the main harbor, you see Nassau again. It is no longer the bustling, vaguely romantic port you departed from. Now, every shadow seems to hold a threat. Every distant shout could be a pirate from the sea serpent. Every creaking tavern sign seems to whisper your name. You have escaped one prison only to find yourself in a much larger, more dangerous one. Flint doesn't take you to the main wharves. He has the fishermen drop you in a foul-smelling inlet choked with mangrove roots and refuse, a part of the city known as the Mire. The air hangs thick and heavy with the stench of stagnant water, rotting fish, and cheap rum. Ramshackle huts built on stilts lean against each other as if for support, connected by a maze of rickety wooden walkways. This is the city's hidden gut, a place where the law is a half-forgotten rumor and survival is a daily transaction. Stay close. Don't speak to anyone, Flint instructs, his voice low. He leads the way, moving with a familiarity that tells you this is not his first time in such a place. Thomas, wide-eyed with fear, clutches the back of your shirt, his presence a constant, vulnerable weight. You walk past faces that are hard and wary. A woman with a scarred cheek watches you from a doorway, her eyes missing nothing. Two men, their skin branded with the marks of escaped indenture, stop their low conversation to track your progress. In this world, you are outsiders. You are fresh meat. Flint stops before a building that seems even more dilapidated than the rest. Its sign, a faded painting of a rat clutching a bottle, is barely visible. There are no windows, only a heavy, salt-bleached door. "The drowned rat," Flint murmurs. "The owner, a man named Silas, owes me. It's the last place Jack's men would think to look for someone of your refinement." He gives you a quick, assessing glance, and you are suddenly aware of your posture, your straight back, the way you carry yourself. They are habits of a different world, and here, they make you stand out like a flare in the night. He pushes the door open. The inside is a cavern of gloom, lit by a few sputtering tallow candles that cast more shadows than light. The air is a physical assault. sweat, stale beer, smoke, and a cloying, sweet smell you recognize as opium. A handful of patrons are scattered around the room, hunched over rough-hewn tables. They are the dregs of the sea, men with missing limbs and haunted eyes, women whose laughter is as sharp and brittle as glass. A man with a long knife scar bisecting his eyebrow looks up as you enter, his gaze lingering on you before dismissing you and turning back to his drink. The silence that falls is not welcoming. It is heavy with suspicion. Flint ignores them all, leading you to a corner table shrouded in darkness. Silas, the owner, materializes from the gloom. He's a gaunt, skeletal figure with skin the color of old parchment and eyes that seem to absorb the candlelight without reflecting it. He and Flint exchange a few terse, whispered words. An old debt is mentioned. A favor is called in. Silas's dead eyes flicker over to you and Thomas, his expression unchanging. He gives a slow, single nod and melts back into the shadows, leaving a bottle of watered-down rum and 3 dirty tin cups on the table. You have been granted sanctuary, as thin and fragile as a spider's web. For an hour you sit in silence, nursing the foul-tasting rum. The low murmur of conversation resumes, but the tension remains. You are a foreign object in this ecosystem, and the other organisms are still deciding if you are food, a threat, or simply irrelevant. Then the fragile peace shatters. It starts with a raised voice from the other side of the room, a drunken accusation over a game of cards. A chair scrapes back. A table is overturned, sending bottles smashing to the floor. Then comes the unmistakable, visceral sound of a knife finding a home in flesh, followed by a choked, wet gasp. Chaos erupts. Men shout and scramble away from the conflict. In the center of the room, a large, bearded man sways on his feet, his eyes wide with shock. A dark, spreading stain blossoms across the front of his tunic, just below the ribs. The man who stabbed him is already gone, vanished through a back door before anyone can react. The wounded man stumbles, clutching his side, and crashes to the floor. His companions, 2 other rough-looking sailors, rush to his side. They try to lift him, their movements clumsy with panic. "Get him up! Get him up!" one yells. The other rips the man's tunic open, revealing a vicious, gaping wound that is bleeding profusely. The sight of it sends a fresh wave of panic through them. "Silas, get the sawbones!" Quote, Silas emerges again, his face a mask of weary annoyance. "The sawbones is 3 sheets to the wind," he rasps, gesturing with a thumb toward a corner where a man lies passed out, drooling onto the table. He's no use to anyone. The wounded man groans, a deep, rattling sound. His friends look at each other, their bravado gone, replaced by raw fear. They're watching their friend bleed to death on a filthy tavern floor, and in that moment, something inside you shifts. The fear, the exhaustion, the feeling of being a helpless victim, it all recedes, replaced by the clear, cold certainty of purpose. This is a system you understand. A body is failing. A procedure is required. You stand up. Every eye in the room turns to you. Flint looks at you, his expression a mixture of alarm and curiosity. You ignore them all, your focus narrowing to the injured man. You walk toward him, your steps steady and deliberate. "Get out of the way," you say. Your voice is not loud, but it is clear and carries the unmistakable weight of authority. It cuts through the panicked shouting. The man's friends stare at you, a slip of a woman in torn, damp clothes. "Who the hell are you?" one of them snarls. "The difference between him living and him dying," you reply, your gaze locked on the wound. You kneel beside the man, your mind already working, assessing, cataloging. Abdominal wound, deep, heavy bleeding. Risk of infection is high. Shock is imminent. "I need rum, the strongest you have." "Not for drinking," you command, looking up at Silas. "And a kettle of boiling water. Now. Also, I need clean rags." "Not those," you say, gesturing with your chin at the filthy strips one of the friends is trying to use. "Tear up a shirt. A clean one if such a thing exists in this place." Your politeness is gone, stripped away by necessity, leaving only the sharp, efficient core of the surgeon's mate. To your surprise, they obey. Your confidence, your sheer competence, is so out of place that it commands respect. Silas disappears and returns with a bottle of raw spirit. One of the man's companions, without a word, rips a long strip from his own surprisingly clean undershirt. You go to work. "Hold him down. Keep pressure here," you instruct, positioning one man's hands on either side of the wound. Your movements are precise, economical. You pour a generous amount of the rum directly into the wound. The man screams, a raw, animal sound, and thrashes, but his friends hold him fast. You work quickly, cleaning the edges of the gash, your fingers probing gently to check for internal damage. There's no time for stitches here, but you can pack the wound, stop the bleeding, give him a chance. You take the clean rags, soak them in the last of the rum, and begin to pack the wound tightly, expertly. The bleeding slows, then subsides to a sluggish ooze. You bind it all tightly with another strip of cloth. The whole process takes less than 5 minutes. When you are done, you sit back on your heels. The man is pale and unconscious, but his breathing is steadier. He is alive. The tavern is utterly silent. Everyone, the scarred sailors, the skeletal owner, James Flint, is staring at you. In their world of brute force and chaotic violence, they have just witnessed a kind of magic. They have seen order imposed upon chaos, life snatched back from the brink, not with a weapon, but with knowledge and a pair of steady hands. The leader of the small crew, the one who had challenged you, looks from his friend's bandaged torso to your face. The hostility is gone, replaced by a raw, grudging awe. "He'll live," you say, your voice quiet again. "But he'll need to be moved somewhere clean, and he'll need more care." You get to your feet, wiping your bloody hands on a dirty rag. Flint comes to your side, a new light in his eyes. He has seen your practicality, your bravery, but now he has seen your power. You have not found safety. Safety is a myth. But you have found something more valuable in the shadows of Nassau. You have found leverage. You have turned your greatest skill into a shield and a weapon. You are no longer just a fugitive. In the grimy, desperate world of the drowned rat, you have just become indispensable. The quiet that settles over the drowned rat in the aftermath is heavier than the smoke-filled air. The man you saved has been carried away by his friends, their promises of reward and protection echoing with the hollow ring of desperation. You are no longer just a prisoner, you are a commodity. You have demonstrated a skill more valuable than gold in this city of broken bodies, and that notoriety is both a shield and a target. Flint watches you from across the table, his calm expression unreadable. He pushes a cup of rum towards you. It's the same foul liquid as before, but it feels different now. It feels earned. "That was a risk," he says, his voice a low counterpoint to the nervous energy still thrumming through the tavern. "Leaving him to die was a greater one," you reply, your voice steadier than you feel. It's the truth. Inaction is its own kind of chaos, and you cannot abide it. They saw him bleed. They saw me stop it. For now, they'll protect the asset. For now, Flint agrees, taking a slow sip. But Jack's men are still out there, and they aren't sentimental. We can't hide in this sewer forever. We need to get off this island. To do that, we need to know where Jack will be, so we can be somewhere else. His eyes meet yours over the rim of his cup, and I think I know who keeps the closest tabs on the sea serpent. Quote, you follow his logic before he even finishes. A pirate captain as successful as One-Eyed Jack doesn't operate in a vacuum. He is a predator, but even predators have patterns. The authorities, you breathe. The ones who are supposed to be hunting him. The Port Admiral, Flint confirms with a nod. Abigail Crane. She's the Crown's fist in Nassau. Every captured pirate, every rumor of a black flag, every shipping schedule crosses her desk. She'll have more information on Jack than anyone. He leans forward, the dim light carving hollows into his face. It's a bigger risk than what you just did. Walking into the lion's den to ask about the wolves, but they have no reason to connect us to the sea serpent. To them, we're just shipwrecked survivors. Polite, brave survivors seeking justice. He says the words with a hint of irony, a slight smile playing on his lips. It's a mad plan, a perfectionist's nightmare of uncontrolled variables and powerful people. It is also the only plan you have. The Admiral's office is a world away from the mire. It occupies the top floor of a stately whitewashed stone building overlooking the main harbor, where the Union Jack snaps smartly in the clean sea breeze. The air here smells of wax polish and importance. Red-coated Marines, their muskets gleaming, stand guard with an air of bored lethality. You and Flint, still in your ragged, salt-stiffened clothes, are a jarring note of discord in this symphony of colonial order. A pinched-faced clerk looks down his nose at you. But Flint's calm, and your carefully constructed politeness, combined with a fabricated but compelling story of a merchant vessel lost in the storm, eventually gains you an audience. You expect an office as starched and rigid as the Marines outside. Instead, the room you enter is a maelstrom of beautiful, expensive chaos. It's as if a hurricane passed through a library. Maps are unrolled over other maps on a vast mahogany desk, held down by half-full teacups and a silver letter opener. Stacks of leather-bound ledgers lean at precarious angles, threatening to collapse at any moment. The entire room smells faintly of Earl Grey tea, old paper, and a woman's lilac perfume. The disorder of it all sets your teeth on edge. It is an assault on your senses, a monument to imprecision. From behind the desk, a woman rises to greet you. "Ah, the poor souls from the storm! Do come in, come in!" This must be Abigail Crane. She is not what you expected. Dressed in a fashionable silk gown rather than a uniform, with a spray of freckles across her nose and auburn hair pinned up in a slightly haphazard fashion, she looks more like a landowner's wife than a formidable port admiral. Her smile is wide and utterly charming. Dreadful business, that gale. Dreadful. "I'm Abigail Crane. Please, sit. If you can find a spot." She gestures vaguely at 2 chairs already piled with scrolls and begins to shift a stack of papers from one chair to the other, nearly knocking over a pot of ink in the process. "Oh dear, clumsy me," she laughs, a light, tinkling sound. "Now, your names were?" Quote, "James Flint, ma'am, and this is Orla Power," Flint says smoothly. "Power, of course," the Admiral exclaims, her blue eyes lighting up. "My clerk mentioned your ordeal. So brave of you both. And you, Miss Power, a surgeon's mate, I hear? How wonderful. We need more practical people in this world." Her charm is a disarming flood. She listens to your story. The story of being shipwrecked, of washing ashore with nothing, with wide-eyed sympathy. She offers you tea, which you politely accept. You explain that the pirates who have been preying on these waters are growing bolder, and that you heard whispers of the notorious One-Eyed Jack being responsible for other wrecks during the storm. You are merely concerned citizens, hoping to provide any information that might help her bring this villain to justice. "One-Eyed Jack," she says, her expression turning serious. She taps a manicured finger on her lip. "Yes, the man is a thorn in my side. A ghost. He slips through my fingers like water." She sighs, a dramatic, fetching gesture of frustration. "He's clever. I'll give him that. He has informants everywhere. It's almost as if he knows which ships are worth taking before they even leave the harbor." She looks at you, her eyes full of sincerity. "I would do anything to see him swinging from the gallows." Quote, "The performance is flawless. Almost. Your bravery is commendable," she continues, her voice warm with admiration. "It's not safe for people like you on the streets. Jack's men could be anywhere. You'll need a safe place to stay while my men hunt him down." She rummages through the chaos on her desk, searching for a fresh piece of parchment. "I have a small property, very discreet, on the east end of town. You'll be perfectly safe there. My own personal guarantee." She finds a quill and dips it in the inkpot she nearly spilled. As she scribbles down the address, she pushes aside a thick shipping manifest to make room. It's a careless, absent-minded gesture. But your eyes, always drawn to details, to the things that are out of place, catch it. For a single, heart-stopping second, you see the bottom of the manifest she moved. It bears a wax seal. The seal is not the crown of England or the mark of a trading company. It is a crude, unmistakable sigil pressed into deep red wax. A serpent coiled around a single staring eye. The air in your lungs turns to ice. It's a private correspondence, a business transaction. The charming smile, the cluttered desk, the bumbling mannerisms. It's all a lie. A perfectly crafted facade to hide the truth. She's not hunting Jack. She's his partner. The safe house is a cage. The protection is a death sentence. You are the bait in her trap. Your blood is roaring in your ears, but your face remains a mask of polite gratitude. You feel Flint shift beside you, a subtle tensing of muscle. He saw it too. "That is incredibly generous of you, Admiral," you say, your voice perfectly even. You take the slip of paper she offers, your fingers not trembling in the slightest. "We are in your debt." Nonsense, my dear, she beams. It's the least I can do. You just rest and recover. I will handle One-Eyed Jack. You and Flint rise to leave. Every instinct screams at you to run, but you force yourselves to walk toward the door. You need a way out, not just from the office, but from the building. The Marines at the door will not simply let you flee. You need a diversion. Your eyes dart around the room, cataloging the chaos, searching for a weakness in her system of disarray. You find it in a towering, teetering ziggurat of ledgers and scrolls perched precariously on the corner of the desk, right next to the path to the door. As you pass the desk, you make your move. It is the work of a moment, a stumble that is not a stumble at all. Your hip connects with the corner of the desk, a seemingly clumsy accident. The tower of paper hesitates for a fraction of a second, then surrenders to gravity. It is glorious, perfect pandemonium. Heavy ledgers crash to the floor with cannon-like thuds. Scrolls unfurl like celebratory banners, and a blizzard of loose documents fills the air. The final, crowning touch is the inkpot, which is sent flying, arcing through the air in a beautiful dark parabola before shattering on the polished floorboards, splashing a Rorschach test of black ink across a priceless Persian rug. "Oh, heavens! My dispatches!" Admiral Crane shrieks, her charming facade cracking to reveal genuine panicked fury. She drops to her knees, scrambling to save the ink-soaked papers, her trap and her targets completely forgotten in the face of this bureaucratic catastrophe. "That is your chance. We'll see ourselves out," Flint calls over his shoulder into the chaos. You don't wait for a reply. You slip through the door, closing it quietly on the Admiral's frantic curses. You walk past the clerk's desk, your pace quickening. You nod politely to the Marines at the entrance, who look quizzically toward the sounds of muffled shouting from the office but remain at their posts. You are out. You are in the clean, bright sun. You don't stop. You round the first corner, breaking into a desperate sprinting run, your lungs burning. Flint is right beside you. You glance back, a knot of pure dread tightening in your stomach, and then you see them. Hurrying up the street toward the Admiral's building, moving with the unmistakable swagger of predators, are two men. You recognize them instantly from the deck of the Sea Serpent. One of them is the brute with the face like a collapsed pudding who kicked Thomas. They weren't waiting for you at the safe house. They were on their way to the Admiral's office to collect you. You escaped not with hours or minutes to spare, but with seconds. The trap has been sprung, and though you are not in it, the hunter has been alerted. Abigail Crane knows you have seen her treachery. One-Eyed Jack knows you have escaped. You are no longer just a forgotten prize of war. You are a loose end, a threat. And as you plunge back into the labyrinthine alleys of Nassau, you can already feel the cold, focused gaze of the serpent's eye fixed squarely on your back. The real chase has just begun. There is no time for thought, only for the desperate, primal command of your own lungs gasping for air. The cobblestones of Nassau's alleys blur beneath your feet. Flint runs beside you, his long strides easily keeping pace, his hand gripping Thomas's shoulder to pull the terrified boy along. The sounds of the city, market cries, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, are a meaningless backdrop to the frantic pounding of your heart and the rasp of your own breathing. You don't look back. Looking back is a luxury for those who are not being hunted. You burst from the maze of alleys into the familiar, fetid air of the mire. The patrons of the drowned rat who are loitering outside scatter like roaches, wanting no part of the trouble that is so clearly chasing you. There is nowhere to go. The harbor is a death trap, the town a cage overseen by a charming, treacherous admiral. Flint, without breaking stride, points west, away from the town, toward the tangled, dark green line that marks the edge of the island's untamed interior. The mangrove swamps. It's an act of pure desperation. No sane person enters the swamps by choice. They are a place of fever, of sucking mud, and things that bite in the murky water. They are a labyrinth with no map. But a labyrinth can hide as well as it can trap. The transition from the squalor of the mire to the wilderness is abrupt. One moment your feet are on a rickety boardwalk. The next they are sinking into soft black mud that tries to steal your shoes. The air changes instantly, the scent of rum and refuse, replaced by the rich, damp smell of decay and life intertwined. The tangled roots of the red mangroves rise from the brackish water like the skeletal limbs of submerged giants, creating a dense, impenetrable wall. "This way!" Flint grunts, finding a narrow, game-like trail that winds between the roots. You follow, shoving Thomas ahead of you. The canopy closes in overhead, plunging you into a perpetual, emerald twilight. The heat becomes a physical presence, thick and suffocating, wrapping around you like a wet wool blanket. The world shrinks to the few feet of muddy track in front of you, the oppressive green, and the chorus of the unseen. Insects buzz in a constant, maddening cloud around your head. The splash of something heavy in the water to your right makes Thomas cry out, a sound you stifle by clapping a hand over his mouth, your eyes wide with warning. Here, in this chaotic tangle, your mind begins to work again, pushing past the panic. Your fear recedes, replaced by the familiar hum of analysis. This is not just chaos. It is a system, an ecosystem. Different from a ship, different from a human body, but a system nonetheless. You begin to see the patterns. The way the light filters through the leaves tells you the direction of the sun, the type of mangrove, red with its prop roots in the deeper water, black with its pneumatophores spiking up from the mud in shallower areas, tells you where the ground is more likely to be solid. Your years of staring at the endless, shifting patterns of the sea have taught you how to read a landscape, how to find the path of least resistance through a hostile environment. Wait, you say, your voice a harsh whisper. Flint stops, looking at you. You point not at the trail but at a nearly submerged network of thick, arched roots. There. It's harder going, but it's above the water. They'll follow the track. It's the obvious path. Quote, Flint looks from the muddy trail to the treacherous-looking tangle of roots, then back at you. He sees the certainty in your eyes, the surgeon's confidence. He nods. Lead on. Quote, moving through the roots is a brutal, exhausting ballet. You climb, balance, and swing from one slick moss-covered root to another. Your muscles, already screaming from the run, burn with a new fire. Thomas slips, his leg plunging into the dark, murky water up to his thigh. He lets out a choked sob of terror as Flint hauls him out, his small leg covered in black slime and crisscrossed with bleeding scratches from barnacles you hadn't seen. You stop on a relatively stable platform of interconnected roots. Let me see, you command, your tone shifting back to that of the surgeon's mate. You gently clean the cuts with the hem of your own ragged shirt, your fingers probing for any embedded fragments. The wounds are shallow, but in this filth, any break in the skin is an invitation to festering sickness. Your mind races through your limited knowledge of local flora, a subject you'd studied out of sheer perfectionist curiosity. You spot a broad, waxy leaf growing nearby, one you recognize from a naturalist's sketch. Chew this, you say, handing a leaf to Flint. And this one. You give another to Thomas. It's bitter, but it will help with the fever if it comes. You take one yourself, the acrid taste flooding your mouth. Then you pluck several more, crushing them between two stones until they form a rough, green poultice. You apply it carefully to Thomas's cuts. It's not your clean linen or your polished tools, but it is order imposed upon chaos. It is the best you can do. Suddenly, you all freeze. A sound carries through the dense air, muffled but unmistakable, shouting. Men's voices, angry and frustrated. They are on the trail, just as you predicted. Down, Flint mouths, pushing you and Thomas flat against the roots. You lie pressed against the damp wood, your cheek against the rough bark, trying to make yourself small. Through a gap in the leaves, you see them. 4 of them, one-eyed Jack's men, led by the brute who kicked Thomas. They are struggling, cursing as their boots sink into the mud of the trail. The swamp is fighting them. One of them slips and goes down, coming up covered in black ooze, his furious roar echoing through the trees. They are a discordant note in this place, loud and clumsy, blind to the rhythms of the swamp. They are looking for a clear path, for signs of broken branches and trampled mud. They are not looking up. You hold your breath, your heart, a painful hammer against your ribs. Thomas is shaking beside you, and Flint has a steadying hand on his back. The pirates pass less than 30 feet from your hiding place. You can smell the sweat and stale rum on them, a foul human scent that doesn't belong here. They move on, their angry voices slowly fading into the distance. You wait for a long, agonizing minute before any of you dares to move. The immediate danger has passed, but the tension remains, a cold weight in your gut. They won't give up, Flint whispers, his voice grim. They'll circle back, We need to put more distance between us. More water. He is right. You push onward deeper into the swamp, away from anything that looks like a path. The world becomes a monotonous cycle of struggle. You wade through waist-deep water that is unnervingly warm, trying not to think about what brushes against your legs. You push through thickets of razor-edged sawgrass that leave 100 tiny cuts on your hands and arms. Thirst becomes a constant gnawing companion. The air is so humid you feel you should be able to drink it, but your mouth is as dry as dust. Your knowledge becomes your compass and your shield. You steer the small party away from stagnant pools where the water is clouded with bacteria. You point out the bright, beautiful skin of a tiny frog, warning Thomas not to touch it. You navigate by the sun you can no longer see, by the lean of the trees, by the subtle shift in the current of the water flowing around your ankles. You are a surgeon diagnosing a living, breathing system, and Flint, with his quiet trust and uncomplaining strength, becomes your steady hand, clearing the way, lifting Thomas over obstacles you cannot manage alone. Hours later, as the dim light begins to fade into a deeper gloom, you find it, a small hummock of solid earth, no bigger than the Admiral's desk, rising a few feet above the water. It's crowned by a single, gnarled cypress tree, its branches draped in curtains of Spanish moss. It's not safety, not by any measure, but it is dry land. You collapse at the base of the tree, every muscle in your body screaming in protest. Thomas is already asleep, his small face streaked with dirt and tear tracks. Flint stands guard, leaning against the tree, his gaze scanning the darkening swamp. He looks exhausted, but his eyes are still sharp, still assessing. "You did well, Orla Power," he says softly, his voice full of a weariness that matches your own. He uses your full name again, and this time it doesn't sound strange. It sounds like a recognition, a statement of fact. You look out at the labyrinth that surrounds you. The swamp is settling into night. The insect chorus swells, joined by the deep croak of bullfrogs and the distant eerie cry of a night heron. The water reflects the last vestiges of twilight, a sheet of polished obsidian. It is beautiful, in a terrifying, savage way. You survived the chase through the city, and you have survived the first day in this green hell. But you know with the cold certainty of a flawless diagnosis that the predators are still out there, circling in the darkness. And morning will come all too soon. Sleep is a distant country you cannot reach. Every time your exhausted mind begins to drift, a sudden splash or a rustling in the branches snaps you back to high alert. The swamp is a living thing, and its nocturnal breathing is a constant reminder of your fragility. Thomas sleeps the sleep of the utterly spent, curled into a tight ball at the base of the tree. Flint remains standing, a silent, unmoving sentinel against the gnarled cypress trunk, but you can see the deep lines of fatigue etched around his eyes. He catches you watching him and gives a minute, almost imperceptible shake of his head. No rest. Not yet. The air cools slightly, and a thin mist begins to rise from the black water, coiling around the mangrove roots like ghostly serpents. It is in this profound, pre-dawn quiet that you hear it. It is not the clumsy crashing of Jack's men. It is a sound so subtle you almost dismiss it as a trick of your tired mind. The soft, rhythmic dip of a paddle in water. Instantly, Flint straightens from the tree, his hand moving to the hilt of the knife tucked in his belt. You move without thinking, placing a hand on Thomas's shoulder, ready to wake him, ready to run, though there is nowhere left to run. You hold your breath, straining to listen over the blood pounding in your ears. The paddling stops. Silence descends again, but it is a different kind of silence now. It is the silence of held breath, of hunters who have found their prey. They do not come from the direction you expect. They emerge from the water itself, rising like spirits from the mist. There are 5 of them. They are not like the pirates of the sea serpent, who are a motley collection of European ruffians. These men and women are different. Their skin is dark, their bodies lean and wiry with muscle, their movements fluid and utterly silent. They wear simple, practical clothing torn and patched for function, not fashion. They carry not cutlasses, but long, sharp-ended spears, and heavy-bladed machetes that gleam dully in the gloom. They are not sailors who have stumbled into the swamp. They are the swamp itself, given human form. They surround your small island, their feet making no sound on the damp earth. Their eyes, visible in the faint light, are wary and hard. One of them, a young man with a crudely bandaged leg, leans heavily on his spear, his face tight with pain. Your gaze snags on the bandage for a moment, the surgeon's mate in you automatically assessing the unhealthy dampness of the cloth, the unnatural way he holds his weight. A figure steps forward from the group. Taller than the others, with hair braided with shells and what looks like alligator teeth, their gender is not immediately obvious, and it doesn't seem to matter. Their face is a mask of calm authority, the skin etched with fine scarification patterns on the cheeks. In their hand, they hold not a weapon, but a long, polished wooden staff. Their eyes, dark and intelligent, move from Flint's hand on his knife to a sleeping Thomas, and finally, to you. The gaze lingers, analytical and unnervingly perceptive. One-eyed Jack hunts you, the figure says. Their voice is a low rasp, like stones grinding together. It is not a question. His men make much noise. They bleed their foolishness into our water. Flint doesn't relax his stance. We have no quarrel with you, he says, his voice steady. Your quarrel follows you. The leader replies, their eyes flicking again to your face. It stinks up our home. Why should we not give you to the serpent? He would pay. Quote, because you hate him as much as we do, you say, the words leaving your mouth before you can second-guess them. Your voice is quiet, but it carries across the water. He is an infection. He spreads. You know it, or you would not be hiding here, watching us. The leader's expression does not change, but a flicker of something, interest perhaps, shows in their eyes. They take a slow step closer, their gaze dropping to the young man with the injured leg. He shifts, trying to hide his pained grimace. You see much for a shipwrecked girl. Quote, I see a deep gash, poorly cleaned, you reply, your professional instincts taking over completely. I see a cloth that hasn't been changed, soaking a wound that is festering in this damp. I see a fever starting in his eyes. In 2 days, the leg will be black with rot. In 3, he will be dead. You deliver the diagnosis with the cold, flat precision of a death sentence. A murmur runs through the other figures. They look from you to their wounded comrade, seeing him now through your eyes. The young man himself looks down at his leg in horror. The leader, however, remains focused on you. You are a healer? I am a surgeon's mate, you correct. There is a difference. Quote, show me. The command is soft but absolute. It is a test, an audition, an impossible, perfect procedure waiting to happen. I need fire, you state, your tone leaving no room for argument. I need water, boiled, and rum, if you have it. The cleanest rags you can find. And your sharpest knife. Quote, for a long moment, the leader just studies you. Flint shifts uneasily, but you meet the leader's gaze without flinching. This is your ground. This is your area of expertise. Finally, with a curt nod, the leader turns and issues a series of low commands in a language you do not understand. Instantly, their people move. 2 of them vanish back into the mangroves, while another produces flint and steel and begins coaxing a small, smokeless fire from a handful of dry tinder they produce from a leather pouch. They work with a silent efficiency that makes Jack's crew look like clumsy children. They bring you what you ask for. A small gourd of clean water set to boil, a flask of potent, unrefined cane spirit, and a knife so sharp the edge is nearly invisible. You take the knife, run the blade through the fire's flame to sterilize it, then douse it in the rum. You turn to the injured man. This will hurt, you tell him, your voice softening slightly. But the pain will be clean. It is the pain that will save you. 2 of his comrades hold him down. You unwrap the filthy bandage. The stench that rises from the wound is foul. A sweet, sickly smell of decay. The flesh around the gash is swollen, red, and weeping pus. Just as you diagnosed, you work quickly, your hand steady, despite the poor light. You pour the rum over the wound, and the man screams, a choked, guttural sound that is quickly muffled by a hand clapped over his mouth. You use the point of the knife to meticulously clean the wound, scraping away the dead and dying tissue. It is a brutal, bloody business. But your movements are sure, precise, and economical. There is no wasted motion. While you work, you speak, not to the man, but to the leader, who watches your every move. The salt water and mud have poisoned the flesh. You must always use fresh water, boiled, to clean a wound here, and never bind it so tightly. A wound must breathe, or the sickness grows in the dark. You are not just healing, you are teaching. You are demonstrating a value beyond a single act. You finish the debridement and bind the wound with clean strips of cloth soaked in more rum. Then, you look around at the base of the cypress, your eyes scanning the foliage. You find the broad, waxy leaves you used on Thomas and point. This leaf, crushed, will draw out more of the poison. Change the dressing at sunrise and sunset. He will live. You stand, wiping your bloody hands on your trousers. The entire band of swamp dwellers is staring at you with a new expression, a mixture of awe and fear. You have performed a kind of ritual magic, driving out the demon of infection with fire and steel. The leader looks from the now sleeping patient to you. They dip their head in a gesture of profound, grudging respect. "My name is Cato," they say. "These are my people. We are the free folk of the Black Morass." You have a skill the swamp honors, and a pirate's honor is simple. A life for a life. You have saved one of ours. We will save yours. Cato offers you a water skin. The water inside is cool and clean, the most precious treasure on this island. They give you dried, smoked fish that tastes of salt and hickory, and your body, starved for sustenance, aches with gratitude. An uneasy alliance is struck, not with words, but with actions. They know the swamp's hidden highways, the sunken paths that are invisible to outsiders. They will guide you, hide you from Jack's men, who they despise as invaders. In return, you are their surgeon. As the first true light of dawn filters through the canopy, you leave the hummock behind. Cato's people move through the swamp with the silent grace of predators. They slide their flat-bottomed canoes into the water from hidden alcoves. And you, Flint and Thomas, are given a place in Cato's own vessel. You are moving again, but this time, you are not fleeing blindly. You are being guided. Flint sits opposite you, his expression wary but watchful. He does not trust this, not completely, but he understands necessity. You glide through watery tunnels formed by mangrove roots, the air cool and damp against your skin. The swamp, which was a terrifying, chaotic enemy an hour ago, now feels different, with Cato pointing out the subtle markers. A leaning tree, a pattern of ripples, the call of a specific bird. You begin to see the order in it, the secret language. You are still a prisoner of the island, still hunted, but you have traded a desperate, chaotic flight for a purposeful, strategic retreat. You have found a new, precarious place in the ecosystem, sheltered by a group of outcasts whose honor is as sharp, pragmatic, and dangerous as the swamp they call home. The sanctuary of the free folk is a ghost village built on a knot of high ground, a place where the water runs clear and the cypress trees are ancient. For 2 days, you exist in a state of suspended reality. You are no longer fleeing. You are waiting. You tend to the wounded, your hands moving with a purpose that grounds you amidst the strangeness of your new surroundings. You change the dressings on the young man's leg, which is now clean and healing. You crush leaves into pastes, boil roots into bitter teas for fevers, and stitch closed a machete wound for a woman who fell while hunting. With each successful procedure, you feel the respect of Cato's people solidify around you, like cooling amber. They call you Skin Mender. Flint watches you, his calm gaze holding a new depth of understanding. He guards you and Thomas, a silent wolf at the edge of the firelight. But he sees that your greatest weapon is not a blade, but this quiet, meticulous power to mend what is broken. The end of your reprieve comes not with a shout, but with the sudden, chilling silence of the birds. One moment the air is filled with their calls. The next, an unnatural quiet falls over the village. Cato, who was observing your work, straightens instantly, their head tilted, sniffing the air like an animal. Their eyes meet yours, and in them you see the calm certainty of doom. The infection has followed you. "They are here," Cato says, their voice a low rasp. "To the trees, now." The attack is not a charge. It is an infestation. One-eyed Jack's men pour from the mangroves on all sides. Their shouts and curses a profane violation of the swamp's sanctity. They are a clumsy, brutal force, firing pistols indiscriminately into the huts, their faces twisted with the greedy joy of cornered prey. The free folk do not scream. They melt into the shadows of the massive trees, their spears and machetes appearing from the gloom like extensions of the swamp itself. The battle is a series of vicious, swirling skirmishes. The sharp crack of a pistol is answered by the wet thud of a spear finding its mark. A pirate's triumphant roar is cut short with a gurgle as a machete slashes across his throat. Flint shoves you and a terrified Thomas behind a screen of hanging moss at the base of a huge cypress. "Stay down," he orders, his knife a sliver of deadly light in his hand. He becomes a phantom of violence, a blur of motion at the edge of your vision, turning aside the attack of one pirate, his blade flashing in a deadly arc that ends the man's life before he can even cry out. But there are too many of them. You watch in horror as one of the free folk, a young woman who had brought you fresh water this morning, is cut down by a hulking brute with a boarding axe. Your world narrows to a kaleidoscope of splintering wood, flashes of steel and the screams of the dying. This is not the clean, ordered violence of your surgical procedures. This is a maelstrom of agony and chaos, and it threatens to swallow you whole. Then, through the mayhem, you see him. One-eyed Jack stands in the center of the village clearing, a king surveying his bloody court. He is not fighting. He is directing, his low, cultured voice cutting through the din, pointing out targets, orchestrating the slaughter with a terrifying, detached efficiency. His single blue eye sweeps the battlefield, and for a heart-stopping moment, it lands on your hiding place. A slow, cruel smile spreads across his face. He has found you. Before he can move toward you, a figure erupts from the smoke of a burning hut. It is Cato, their staff traded for a long, heavy-bladed spear. They move with the fluid grace of a striking panther, silent and lethal. "This is our home, sea rat," Cato snarls, lunging. The fight is a clash of two opposing forces. Cato's speed and precision, a whirlwind of feints and thrusts, the spear a living extension of their body. Jack is brute force and raw power, his cutlass a heavy, cleaving weapon that smashes through Cato's defenses. The spear tip darts in, scoring a long, bloody line on Jack's arm. Jack grunts, not in pain, but in annoyance, and retaliates with a blow so powerful it splinters the shaft of Cato's spear. Unarmed, Cato stumbles back. Jack's smile is gone, replaced by a cold fury. He steps forward and drives his cutlass deep into Cato's side. Cato gasps, a sound of surprise more than pain. They look down at the blade embedded in their body, then up at Jack. And then Cato smiles, a bloody, defiant grin. The sight galvanizes you, cutting through your fear with a shard of pure cold rage. Your perfectionist mind, the part of you that cannot abide a broken system, sees the fatal flaw in Jack's victory. He is arrogant. He is distracted. Your hand goes to a small leather pouch at your belt, a pouch Cato gave you. Inside is a small, hollow reed, no bigger than your finger, its tip sharpened to a needlepoint and coated in a glistening dark paste. The poison from the skin of the ghost-faced frog, Cato had called it. A poison that does not kill, but commands. It steals the breath from the muscles, turning a living man into a statue of flesh and bone. A surgeon's weapon. Precise. Clean. You move. Flint is engaged with two pirates, a wall of steel between you and the world. But he cannot see this. This is your procedure. You kick over a drying rack laden with alligator skins. It crashes to the ground, a loud, chaotic diversion. Jack's head whips around at the sound, his eye narrowing. In that moment of distraction, you are no longer hiding. You are walking toward him, closing the 15 feet between you. He sees you. He pulls his blade from Cato's body, letting the leader of the free folk collapse to the ground. He turns to you, a look of amused disbelief on his face. "Well, well," he rumbles, the low voice that has haunted your nightmares. "The surgeon's mate, have you come to declare me the winner?" You stop just out of his blade's reach, holding your hands up in a gesture of surrender. "I've come to offer you a deal," you say, your voice remarkably steady. His eye glitters with cruel humor. "A deal?" He takes a step toward you. "I have everything I want. I have you." The translator is next. "The boy will watch you both die. What could you possibly offer me?" "Your life," you say quietly. "This place is a maze. Your men are dying. The rest will flee when they see how many are dead. But I know the way out. I can guide you, me, for my friends' lives." It is the perfect bait for his arrogance. The idea that you, his captured prize, would think you held any power is so absurd it amuses him. He throws his head back and laughs, a harsh, ugly sound. "You have bravery, I'll give you that," he says, his laughter subsiding. "But you have nothing." "I have this," you whisper, and in the last moment of his laughter, while his guard is down, you move. You are not a warrior, but you are fast. You lunge forward, not at his chest or his throat, but at his arm, the one with the bloody gash from Cato's spear. You bring up the hollow reed and jab the sharpened tip into the exposed, bleeding flesh of the wound. He is faster than you imagined. His reaction is instantaneous. Even as your dart pierces his skin, his other hand, the one holding the cutlass, flashes out in a vicious, backhanded arc. The steel shears through your sleeve and bites deep into the flesh of your left shoulder. The pain is a blinding white-hot explosion, a supernova of agony that steals your breath and buckles your knees. You cry out, stumbling backward, clutching the ruined, bleeding mess of your shoulder. But you see it. You see the look of triumph on Jack's face curdle into confusion. He raises his cutlass to finish you, but the arm does not obey. A tremor runs through his body. His single blue eye widens in horrified understanding. He looks from his own paralyzed arm to you, kneeling in the mud, clutching your wound. The cutlass clatters from his nerveless fingers. "What?" he chokes out, the words slurring. His legs give way, and he crashes to the ground, his body convulsing once before locking into a rigid, terrifying stillness. He is not dead. He is a prisoner in his own body, his furious, intelligent eye, the only part of him that can still move, staring at you with a look of pure, impotent hatred. The sight of their invincible captain collapsing like a felled tree shatters the morale of the remaining pirates. A wave of panic rips through them. The free folk, their faces grim masks of vengeance for their fallen leader, press their advantage. The fight turns into a rout, then a slaughter. Flint is suddenly there, his face pale with alarm. He kills the last pirate near you and drops to his knees at your side. "Orla!" His voice is tight with a fear you have never heard from him before. He sees your shoulder, the blood pulsing from the wound, and his face hardens with a new kind of terror. You look past him, at the scene of carnage. The battle is over. The silence that falls is broken only by the groans of the wounded and the soft weeping of the survivors. You see Cato's still form, and the bodies of the pirates and the free folk littering the ground. You see Thomas, pale but safe, peering out from behind the tree. You look at One-Eyed Jack the monster, defeated not by a sword but by a frog's poison and a surgeon's nerve. You have won. You are alive. And as Flint gently presses a strip of cloth to your shoulder, the world begins to swim in a haze of red, the edges turning gray and fuzzy. The cost of this victory is a debt being paid by your own blood, pouring hot and fast into the soil of the swamp. The world dissolves into a searing red fog. The triumphant, brutal sounds of the battle fade into a distant, muffled roar, like the sea heard from inside a shell. There is only the pain, a blinding sun exploding in your shoulder, and the feeling of your own life, hot and slick, spilling out of you. You feel Flint's hands, surprisingly gentle, pressing down, trying to staunch the flow. You try to tell him it's an arterial bleed, that pressure alone won't be enough, that he needs to find the vessel and ligate it, but the words are just formless sounds in your throat. The last thing you see before the gray fog consumes everything is Flint's face, his usual calm shattered by a desperate, raw fear you never thought he was capable of feeling. You drift in and out of a feverish, haunted darkness. Time becomes a meaningless concept, measured only in waves of burning pain and the moments of blessed, cool relief when someone presses a wet cloth to your forehead. You are aware of hushed voices speaking a language you don't know, the bitter taste of medicinal teas forced between your lips, and the ghostly sensation of your wound being cleaned and dressed with meticulous care. You are no longer the surgeon. You are the patient, the broken body, and you surrender to the care of the people you saved, your life now a debt they are repaying with solemn diligence. When you finally wake, truly wake, the world has a sharp, painful clarity to it. You are lying on a pallet of soft furs inside a dry, clean hut. The light filtering through the woven walls is gentle. Your shoulder is tightly bound in clean linen, and while a deep, throbbing ache remains, the fire has receded to embers. Flint is sitting on a low stool by your side, sharpening his knife with a whetstone. The rhythmic SHHHK, SHHHK, SHHHK of the stone on steel is the only sound. He looks up as your eyes open, and the relief that floods his face is so profound, it's like seeing the sun break through clouds. "Welcome back, Orla Power," he says softly. You try to sit up, and a groan escapes your lips as pain lances through you. He's there in an instant, a hand on your good shoulder, easing you back down. "Easy. You lost a lot of blood. The free folk, they're good healers. They used what you taught them." Quote, Cato? You ask, your voice a dry croak. Flint's face hardens. Gone, along with 10 others. We paid a heavy price for Jack's head. He gestures with his chin toward a corner of the hut. Lying on a simple wooden chest is Jack's cutlass, and, next to it, a small, oilskin-wrapped bundle. I took this from his coat before we disposed of the bodies. I thought it might tell us who he was working for. Quote, for the next week, while your body slowly, grudgingly knits itself back together, that small bundle becomes your entire world. The remaining free folk, now led by a grim-faced woman named Zora, treat you with a reverent distance. They bring you food and water and keep watch, honoring the debt to Cato, but you are still an outsider. It is Flint who becomes your hands and feet. He sits with you for hours while you pore over the contents of the oilskin pouch. A small, leather-bound ledger. It's a cipher, a series of dates, numbers, and strange symbols. It is not a language Flint recognizes. At first, it is a source of profound frustration. But your mind, sharp and hungry for a puzzle to distract from the pain, begins to see not words, but a system, a procedure. This isn't a code to be translated, you say one afternoon, your finger tracing a line of numbers. It's a record to be diagnosed. Look, these dates, they're always 2 days before a new moon or a full moon. High spring tides. Flint leans closer, his curiosity piqued. For slipping over the shoals? Quote, perhaps, you murmur, and these symbols, they aren't letters, they're cargo markers. I've seen them on manifests. This one means fine textiles. This one, sugar. This, naval stores. You point to a specific entry. See? The sea lark. Our ship. The date matches. The cargo symbol matches. But look at the numbers next to it. It's a complex fraction. That's not a quantity. It's a share. Jack's share. You spend days cross-referencing Jack's ledger with what little information Flint can glean from Zora's scouts, who slip into Nassau like shadows to listen to dockside gossip. You make a list of the ships Jack attacked over the last 6 months. A pattern emerges, perfect and horrifying. Jack wasn't just a pirate taking prizes of opportunity. He was a corporate predator. Every ship he took belonged to a merchant in direct competition with one man, a powerful, untouchable shipping magnate named Elias Thorne. Thorne's ships were never touched. His rivals, however, found their vessels lost to piracy at an astonishing rate. The pursuit of One-Eyed Jack was a lie. He wasn't a rogue element. He was a weapon deployed by Abigail Crane on behalf of Elias Thorne to cripple their competition and consolidate their own power. The elegant office, the document sealing your fate you once imagined, it belonged to Thorne. Crane provided the naval intelligence, the patrol schedules, the information on which ships were most vulnerable. Thorne provided the targets. Jack provided the bloody work. And they all grew rich from it. We have the diagnosis, you say to Flint, your voice tight with a cold fury. Your shoulder aches, a constant reminder of the cost of their game. Now we need to cut out the rot. But how? Crane controlled the law. Thorne owned half the city. To walk into the light was to be arrested as fugitives and silenced permanently. You need a different tool. Not a frontal assault, but a precise surgical strike. The drowned rat, you say, the idea forming, clean and complete. The sailors you saved, Flint clarifies, catching on instantly, the ones whose friend you healed. He was from a ship called the North Star, you recall. Captain Miller. He swore he was in my debt. Using the free folk as messengers, a dangerous favor you ask for with the weight of Cato's memory, you get a message to Captain Miller. You ask for a meeting. Not with you, but with Flint. 2 nights later, Flint returns to the swamp, his expression grimly satisfied. Miller will help, he reports. Thorne's consortium has nearly bankrupted him. He hates Crane, but he's terrified of her. He said there's only one man in Nassau who is too stubborn, too self-righteous, and too low-level to be on Crane's payroll. Quote, the clerk, you breathe, picturing the pinched-faced man who looked down his nose at you. The man who loved rules and order above all else. A man who would be disgusted by the chaos of corruption hiding beneath the veneer of authority. The plan is complex, a multi-layered procedure requiring perfect timing. Captain Miller and his crew will provide the first distraction, staging a massive drunken brawl on the main wharf, drawing the attention of the red-coated Marines. In the ensuing chaos, Flint, disguised as a common sailor, will approach the clerk, Mr. Abernathy, as he leaves his office. He won't threaten him, he will hand him a package. The package contains your proof. It is Jack's ledger. Alongside it you have written a meticulous, clear-headed analysis, drawing the undeniable lines between the dates, the tides, the targeted ships, and Thorne's financial gains. You lay out the conspiracy with the irrefutable logic of a surgeon explaining an anatomy lesson. You include a final, damning piece of evidence, a sworn, signed statement from Thomas describing the day the sea serpent took the sea lark, and how One-Eyed Jack seemed to know exactly what he was looking for. It is the testimony of a child, pure and unimpeachable. Your final instruction to Abernathy is simple. Deliver this to the governor himself, a man known to despise Crane's ambition. You do not get to see it happen. You can only wait in the suffocating humidity of the swamp, your own fate in the hands of a resentful sea captain and a fussy clerk. The waiting is its own kind of torture, a helplessness that grates against every fiber of your being. The news comes 2 days later, not from the free folk, but from one of Miller's men, who risks the journey into the swamp to find you. His eyes are wide with a kind of stunned reverence. It worked. It worked perfectly. Abernathy, horrified by the rot your evidence revealed, went directly to the governor. The governor, armed with undeniable proof, acted swiftly. That evening, Zora leads you, Flint, and Thomas to the edge of the swamp overlooking the harbor. From the concealment of the mangroves, you watch. You see the red-coated Marines, not patrolling but marching with purpose toward the Port Admiral's office. You see Elias Thorne being escorted from his lavish manor house in Irons, his face a mask of disbelief. And then, you see her. Abigail Crane is brought out onto the steps of her own office. Her fashionable dress is rumpled. Her auburn hair is coming undone, and for the first time, her charming smile is gone, replaced by a snarl of pure, venomous fury. The mask has been stripped away, revealing the ugly truth beneath. As they lead her away, she looks wildly around, as if searching the very shadows for the ghosts who brought her down. Justice has been served. The city is, for a moment, cleaner. The infection has been excised. But there is no triumph in your heart. You look at Flint, who stands beside you, his face grim. You look at Thomas, who watches the proceedings with the empty eyes of a boy who has lost everything. You touch your own shoulder, feeling the hard, ridged line of the scar forming beneath the bandage. It will be with you forever, a permanent map of the cost. Cato and his people are dead. The sea lark is at the bottom of the ocean. Your old life, the one of quiet, orderly perfection, is a memory. You won. You unraveled the conspiracy and brought the powerful to their knees. But as you turn your back on the lights of Nassau and melt back into the silent darkness of the swamp, you understand with a surgeon's certainty that some wounds never truly heal. The fires of Nassau burn in the distance, but they are fires of celebration and retribution, not of destruction. The lights of the harbor seem to mock the impenetrable darkness of the swamp at your back. You have severed the head of the serpent, but its body still twitches. Thorne and Crane are gone, but the system that created them, the greed, the desperation, the thin veneer of law over a roiling sea of self-interest, remains. Zora steps out from the shadows, her face unreadable in the gloom. She looks at the distant lights, then at you. The debt is paid, she says, her voice flat. Cato's spirit can rest. But this is not your home. The swamp has given you passage, but it will not keep you. She is right. You are a foreign body here, just as you were in the Drowned Rat and in the Admiral's office. You do not belong to this world of shadows and silent vengeance, any more than you belong to the world of polished mahogany and political intrigue. You nod, the simple movement sending a dull ache through your shoulder. We will be gone by sunrise. Quote, see that you are, Zora says, not unkindly. It is a simple statement of fact. She and the remaining free folk turn and melt back into the blackness, their departure as silent and final as their arrival. They leave you, Flint and Thomas, standing alone on the muddy shore, caught between a world you have just shattered and a wilderness that will no longer shelter you. She's right, Flint says, his voice low beside you. We've stirred the hornet's nest. The governor may be grateful, but Thorne has friends. Crane has loyalists. They will not see us as heroes. They will see us as the loose thread that unraveled their tapestry. A thread that needs to be cut. Quote, You turn from the lights of the city and look at him. His calm is back, a familiar, reassuring shield, but his eyes hold the deep, weary knowledge of a man who has run his entire life. He looks at you, then his gaze softens as it falls on Thomas, who stands shivering between you both, his thin frame a testament to all you have endured. Captain Miller is making ready to sail on the morning tide, Flint continues, on the North Star. He owes you more than he can ever repay. He will take us anywhere we want to go. No questions asked. He pauses, and the air between you becomes charged with the weight of an unspoken question. He has offered you a place as his surgeon's mate, a good ship, an honest captain. You could go back to it, Orla. You could have the life you had before. The order, the quiet competence. The words hang there, a ghost of a possibility. The image of your neat little infirmary aboard the Sealark rises in your mind. The rows of polished needles, the stoppered vials, the comfort of a predictable rhythm. You could have that again. You could find another ship, another life, where your greatest concern is a case of sunburn or a splintered finger. You could be polite, brave, and respected for your skill. You could pretend the last few weeks never happened. But as you try to grasp that image, it dissolves like smoke. You look down at your hands, no longer pristine but stained with swamp mud and the memory of another man's blood. You touch the thick, clumsy bandage on your shoulder, feeling the angry, jagged line of the scar beneath. This scar is a part of you now. The knowledge of what a human body can endure, and what it can inflict. The memory of Cato's bloody smile, of Jack's paralyzed fury. These things are a part of you too. They cannot be scrubbed clean. They cannot be neatly packed away in a medical chest. The perfectionist in you, the one who craved an orderly world, is not dead. She has simply changed her definition of perfection. A perfect procedure is no longer just stitching a clean wound. It is using a frog's poison to paralyze a tyrant. It is seeing the flaw in a conspiracy and exploiting it to tear down an empire of corruption. It is turning chaos itself into a tool. The surgeon's mate of the Sealark would have cowered in the brig. You walked out of it. She would have died in the swamp. You learned its language. She would have wept before one-eyed Jack. You faced him down and ended him. You look up at Flint. And you? You ask softly. Will you sign on as a translator for Captain Miller? Quote, a slow smile touches his lips, the first genuine smile you have seen from him that is not born of irony or grim satisfaction. I think my translating days are behind me, he says. I find I'm better at logistics. Quote, there it is, the choice. It isn't a choice between two paths, one of safety and one of adventure. It is a choice between who you were and who you are now. To go back would not be a return to order. It would be a lie. A carefully constructed fiction that would crumble at the first sign of real trouble. The only true path is forward, into the unknown. The world is a big place, you say, the words feeling solid and real in your mouth, full of broken systems, full of infections that need to be cut out. Flint's smile widens slightly. He understands. He has understood all along. He was just waiting for you to see it too. That it is, he agrees, and it will need people who know how to fix them, people with a certain precision. Quote, your decision is made, not with a grand declaration, but with a quiet, shared understanding under a sky full of distant stars. You will not be a surgeon's mate, nor will you be a pirate. You will be something new, something forged in the crucible of this chase. You will be a healer of a different sort, with a calm-eyed strategist at your side, and a young boy who deserves a future you will now build for him. The deck of the North Star is solid beneath your feet as it slips its moorings and glides out of Nassau's harbor. Captain Miller gives you a wide berth, a look of profound, fearful respect in his eyes. He has given you the master's cabin and instructions to his crew that you and your companions are to be treated as honored guests. You, Flint and Thomas, stand at the stern rail, watching the lights of the port recede until they are just a faint glimmer on the horizon. The island becomes a dark, sleeping beast behind you, its nightmares and its treasures fading into memory. The sea air is clean and cool, washing away the last of the swamp's humid stench. You inhale deeply, and for the first time in what feels like a lifetime, you feel the tension in your shoulders begin to ease. The great, terrifying chase is over. You are no longer the hunted. You are simply moving. You look out at the vast, dark expanse of the ocean, the moonlight painting a shimmering path on the water's surface. This golden age of piracy, you reflect, is not an age of treasure chests and swashbuckling heroes. It is an age of desperation, An age of escaped bondsmen and press gang sailors, of corrupt officials and ruthless magnates, all scrambling for a foothold in a world of vicious, shifting alliances. It is an ecosystem, as savage and as complex as the Black Morass. You have seen its brutality, but you have also seen its codes. The strange brotherhood of the sea serpent's crew, the pragmatic honor of the free folk, the desperate loyalty of men like Captain Miller. It is a world of gray, not of black and white. And you have learned to navigate it. You have found your own code. Flint stands beside you, a quiet, reassuring presence. Thomas, wrapped in a thick wool blanket, has finally fallen asleep, his head resting against your good side. The rhythmic creak of the ship's timbers and the soft whisper of the wind in the sails are a soothing lullaby. The waves lap gently against the hull, a steady, calming pulse. It is the sound of a journey beginning, not one ending. The echoes of the chase, of the fight, of the fear, begin to soften, their sharp edges worn smooth by the gentle, endless motion of the sea. The pain in your shoulder is a dull, sleeping thing. Your mind, for so long a tightly wound spring of calculation and survival, finally begins to uncoil. Let the waves carry you now. Let the gentle rocking of the ship soothe your weary soul. The story recedes, fading into the soft whisper of the ocean's spray and the vast, quiet darkness of the night. The adventure is over, but its echoes remain, a reminder of the strength you found in the chaos. You are safe. You are free. Sleep now. The horizon will wait. Sleep well.